So Grounded just released in early access, which is a co-op survival game where you're shrunken down teenagers in a comparatively giant backyard, and you get along by hunting and fighting with the local bug and insect populations while crafting weapons and armor and base building and carving out your own chunk of this strange oversized world. It's a decent game, more of a pure sandbox in its current state, with more narrative components to come, but I wanted to highlight a particular wrinkle in the game's design and how it affects certain segments of the population. In Grounded, you occasionally, and by occasionally I mean continually, have to contend with giant spiders. They're big, nasty, disgusting, aggressive, predatory, ravenous, fast, formidable, bulky, and numerous, basically everything you don't want a spider to be. And when the game was first revealed, the developers talked later in an interview about how they interacted with so many people who liked the game's concept, but were just like, giant spiders? I can't play this. Because arachnophobia is obviously a very real thing for a lot of people, and even if you don't have it full blown, giant spiders in particular are just very unpleasant for certain reflexes in your brain. I personally despise them. There are giant spiders in Skyrim, a game I put over 500 hours in, and I would kill them with arrows or spells from as far away as I possibly could. I'd sooner turn tail and run than fight them up close, even if they weren't that dangerous. But it would activate my disgust sensors and make me feel very gross every time I saw one. Skyrim spiders are probably even less pleasant to look at than Grounded's because they're furry and this rusty brown color and awful, while Grounded's look more like oversized versions of real spiders, which are still disgusting but in a more familiar way. But so the developers thought about this, and they wondered what they could do about it because they didn't want to take the apex predator out of the game. You can't have a game about surviving against bug populations and have no spiders. It's just a void nothing else would fill. It's culturally significant, certainly not in a good way, but significant nonetheless. And I know some of you have pet spiders at home and are somehow not in jail, but your attraction to categorically shunned creatures because you see them as a reflection of yourself is the minority viewpoint of society, which probably just reinforces that for you, but I'm going to stick with the majority opinion that spiders are, if nothing else, overall unpleasant beings. But then how to maintain one's artistic vision while not disregarding a segment of your player base, because they said they wanted as many people as possible to play their game. Everyone wants that. So they introduced an arachnophobia meter that you can just adjust in the options menu that changes the look of the spiders at differing levels. The lower levels might remove their fangs and some of their legs, things you associate with being necessary for a spider to be a spider, while the highest level is literally just a yellow round head with no facial features attached to a pale blue abdomen with no legs. And in the wild, this two-segment shape cluster just floats around as if it's a whole-ass spider, and it's very disorienting. I turned my arachnophobia meter all the way up in my game, and I saw those things levitating around making growling noises, and I have to say, I was just as perturbed by them. It's like if someone put a spider in front of you and you freaked out, but then they draped a sheet over it like a walking tablecloth, and it started scuttling around with a sheet over its body, and they were like, see, it's not a spider anymore. Nah, it is though. At its core, that is very much a spider. I might not be able to see all the spider features anymore, but my eyes look at that moving sheet and still tell my brain it's a spider. In the game, when you attack one of the floating blobs, it even still says wolf spider above its health bar. You're not fooling anyone. The only difference is now I can't see if the legs it no longer has are winding up an attack or if they still have a hitbox. I applaud your effort, I suppose, but I think this one's a lost cause. And none of the other levels to the meter are better. Either you've got a spider with no fangs, which is still a spider, or a spider with 4 legs, which is still a spider. Even as someone who is superbly grossed out by spiders, I would say forget the meter and deal with them in all their disgusting anti-glory. You need the visual information, and if you can't handle it, then honestly don't play the game. For the record, I freaked out at least once at basically every single bug in that game. The ants are ugly as sin, the gnats fly right up into your face, the red mites have these pincer jaws that would make Pincer the Pokemon squeamish. I feel like this game just isn't for some people, and that's okay. You don't have to force yourself into it. I enjoyed the time I spent crafting and resource gathering and base building, but whenever a bug came on screen, even a docile one, I was like, you get the hell away from me. The only exception is aphids. They're kind of cute, like little green corn cobs with legs that skitter around and up grass stalks. Alternatively, if you do have legitimate arachnophobia, I'm sure your therapist would recommend exposure to it because that's how you beat your fears, by facing them, and this game is a safe way to do that, although fighting giant spiders that can kill and eat you might not do wonders for your perception of real-life spiders. But on the other hand, if you can get over the giant spiders, real spiders must seem like nothing compared to that. It hasn't worked for me, but you might have better luck. But the question this brings up for me is, if there's something in your game that is going to keep certain people away, do you have an obligation to remove or mitigate that risk in some way? These devs didn't feel obligated, they just wanted to, so that's fine, because in the spirit of cooperation, and also sales, bringing as many people in as possible is a good thing. However, if we were to get into the territory of developers being forced to accommodate population segments for whatever reason, which is something I can realistically see happening if it hasn't already, would that be okay? Imagine if the Arachnophobia Society, or whatever, is there a group for us? Do we have a union for no reason? Imagine if they took a stand and were like, you are marginalizing arachnophobic people by including giant spiders in your game. This pushes us out and makes us feel unwelcome and unsafe. We demand that you remove all visual reference to arachnids so that we may also be entitled to enjoy your product. That would be batshit insane, right? But even though, yes, it would, it really wouldn't, because all it is a group identity, oppressed victim narrative that we already see in all facets of American life taken to another logical extension. Any self-identified group can claim to be marginalized, and anyone can be correct about that claim. Like, you're arachnophobic, so you can't enjoy an opportunity that non-arachnophobic people can, then you're marginalized. Accurately marginalized. That's why it's a tricky business, because how do you decide between all the marginalized groups who are all technically marginalized, which ones deserve to have their demands met and which don't? How do you create that hierarchy, and who gets to do it, and why do they get to do it? What qualifications do they have? What qualifications do you even need? Is all of this just really, really arbitrary? The answer is yes, as far as I'm concerned. For my part, if you want to willingly modify your original vision to be more inclusive to certain demographics, you go for it. That's your choice. But when it becomes not your choice, that is unacceptable. If you start getting pressure from groups who want their demands met, and they start going after your sponsors and doing all these underhanded tactics to make you acquiesce without directly forcing you to, so they can still claim you had a choice in the matter. Like, you see people do that to media personalities and brands all the time who apologize and reverse course on shit they shouldn't. That is abject trash. And I think we've been blessedly free of that in the gaming industry, or at least it's all gone down behind the scenes where we don't know. International censorship is a different beast. That's governmental. That's people using power they actually have. Doesn't mean it's right, but it's a different issue. But I at least think we've been relatively free of stuff where some group with a loud internet presence complains and then a game has to change something. Mostly we just get video game reviews that accuse Paper Mario of colonialism, and then everyone laughs and rolls their eyes and laments how fucking stupid people are. It's not like Nintendo's gonna read that and fundamentally change how they make Mario games. All we can hope is that it'll stay that way. Speaking of games hopefully staying unchanged by dumb criticism, the Destroy All Humans remake came out recently, and the woke audiences of 2020 seemingly have no idea what to make of jokes from 15 years ago that predate their brand new morals. Destroy All Humans was a campy, tongue-in-cheek humor game about an alien invasion where you're the alien that takes place in the 60s when everyone was worried about the red menace of communism, drive-in movie theaters were all the rage, and trophy wives lined every shelf of America. It's a different time, and it's got some jokes that are evocative of that time. Crude jokes, sexual harassment, police brutality. I read one review from Game Informer that gave the game a 6 out of 10, and during its derision of the game's humor said that jokes about police brutality were hard to laugh along with. Meanwhile, the jokes are just you reading a cop on the street's mind and he's thinking, when do I get to hit someone with my nightstick? Damn, did that brutal downward punch sour your grapes? Sorry to see the smile wiped off your face by something that couldn't have been tamer if it was a pet rabbit. Aside from Destroy All Humans' quality of life improvements over the original, which there are several, and not small ones either, you can skate on the ground now and get around much faster. They deleted the concentration meter entirely, so you can use telekinesis infinitely, which is amazing. The jetpack is much smoother and quicker. Mass harvesting of brains is exponentially faster. It really can't be overstated how many improvements were made, even though the story and mission structure itself is identical. But I support this game from the bottom of my heart, because it's a testament testament to how there's still a place for off-color jokes in the gaming industry in the year 2020, and that you can take something that was created 15 years ago, remake it from the ground up and bring it to this year, and it can still exist as it was, without turning into a shell of its former self and having to go through rigorous standards and practices to appease the enthusiastically offended. I've only played about 4 hours so far, but I'm proud of what I've witnessed. Hearing an intact joke in that beautiful time capsule of a game, and then imagining how some people must be reacting to it, just fills me with great joy. And also dread, because things are only getting more radical with every passing year, so who knows how long we'll have current iterations of shit like this, but I'll enjoy it while I can. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter @SunburnedAlbino, and I will see you guys next time.